Okay, calling to order the October 2025 meeting of the AOS 93 board. We have Matt Benner, June Dunfeld, Wayne Parlin, and myself. Everybody stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any adjustments to the agenda? Any public comment?
Oh,
Seeing none?
hey, wow,
So approval of the minutes for the September 3rd meetings.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? And I will abstain since I wasn't here. Getting worse and worse.
Is that?
the
I just
glasses?
can't see without.
I have readers in the car.
That's what these are.
Oh, well, mine are probably stronger.
Communications and correspondence. Okay. My report, your report, why don't you go first and then I'll talk about
Mine.
the,
Yeah, we'll jump right into yours because the only thing I have is that we don't have on here what the next meeting of the AOS board would be, which would be on
November.
November 5th,
Mhm.
if necessary. And as I've said with my other, with as far as superintendent's report, you hear them at your individual monthly meeting, so I just be rehashing stuff you've already heard or will hear, so.
I do have a question, Todd.
Yeah.
In case of subs, which is going to be my case, how does the sub get the agenda?
If you let me know who they are, I'll make sure.
Okay, Emil is coming in my stead, but I don't, in November.
Okay.
I don't expect you to remember. I'll send you a note.
But a reminder would be nice, but I will.
Guy Fawkes Day.
No, I thought I heard a door.
Well, listen, I
No,
don't.
I
Hey,
didn't know
Sarah.
what was going
Oh, hi, Sarah.
Yeah, well,
You just missed the public comment section.
oh, bummer. They're talking on public already.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
So the update on the Educational Service Center is that it is moving along. Bristol had their meeting on Thursday and voted in favor of submitting part 2, which has a draft interlocal agreement and a draft budget and a draft withdrawal plan. So they've done that, and the South Bristol Board meets tomorrow night, and I assume the same vote will happen. And then we wait to hear back from the Department of Education, and they'll let us know what they think of our planning. And then we have, if they say it's good, then we have until November 30th to sign and, get married and go ahead with it. And I've been urging the restructuring committee and the 2 boards to be as expeditious as possible in making a decision and getting it done so that the AOS can move along and know one way or the other what it needs to do.
on. Do you think you'll hear anything back by November 5th meeting?
It's possible. I would think that we will have heard back from given, if South Bristol decides to move ahead with part 2, then I don't think there's very much preventing us from emailing the 3 documents. It's not like we have to wait on the mail or anything. And usually they turn that around in 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. So yeah, so it's very possible that we would have an idea by our next board meeting.
And so are the board's just gonna vote to make the decision? Are you gonna try to put it out to a public vote? You got timing for that?
The
Is that-
Bristol School Board at the last meeting said pretty clearly that they were not intending to have a public vote.
I was just wondering how that was all gonna come in as a time factor, if that was all gonna have to take place, so.
The majority of the lawyers and the DOE both agree that there does not need to be one.
Right,
So
okay,
South Bristol, like I said, hasn't voted yet, and that's tomorrow.
right. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on. Okay, so interlocal agreement
Yeah, we
revisions.
sent that to, I sent it up to Drummond with some I had gone through, you weren't here, maybe you didn't see it. I don't appreciate it, but I had gone through and you wanted the towns removed that had been, which that isn't an issue. But to change the numbers like I attempted to do, that is an issue. Can't do that. So right now, you asked about the revive the fall. The one that was last voted on is the current interlocal agreement that's governing how things are done. Their advice is to wait and see what happens with the two towns on the peninsula to see if, rather than doing an interlocal agreement with just 4 towns and have to turn around and do it again with 2 towns. Their suggestion was wait. Peter and I are gonna have a meeting with
Cleona O'Malley.
Lino O'Malley and perhaps Greg Im tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon. So we might have some more information from them at that point. But at this point, I couldn't go in and remember how I tried to adjust the votes. I reduced the number,
Yeah,
brought it
yeah.
down. I can't do that.
But the cost share formula language. Could get changed, cause we changed that.
We
at-
voted on it.
Right.
So, but this is my understanding, and it seems to be consistent with what we're hearing from Drummond Woodson, and that's what we're gonna clarify when we meet tomorrow. The 2021 local interlocal agreement is a document that every town voted on and passed, and it provides guidance for how you make changes. That document governs the changes you already made and changes you may make in the future and stays as a permanent guiding document. And when you make changes, these are sort of amendments to it.
Okay,
It's my belief, and this is what I want to clarify when I get on this call with Todd, that what we really should be drafting is amendments to the interlocal agreement that can then get posted with it. And we can say, November, December, what it was, 2024, we changed the cost sharing agreement to this. June 30th, these towns left, and track those things. But the interlocal agreement was voted on by all 7 towns, and until they vote again, that's the interlocal agreement,
Yeah,
but it has been amended. But you don't go back and change the 1787 Constitution because you've done amendments every decade since then.
So it's like codicils on a will or something. Like
Yeah.
So the content says one thing, but the PSs.
Yeah.
Can supersede, can
Well, they take, they're
take precedent.
precedent because the interlocal agreement says the board can change the cost sharing agreement. Here's the current cost sharing agreement, but the board can change it.
Right,
Board can still change it. They change it every day, The towns can leave in the following manner. So when towns leave, they leave in the following manner. So the original document is still the guiding document, but now there are amendments to it. It has since been updated.
I get the principle.
Yeah.
I think it's a little weird, like if it was a nonprofit set of bylaws or something like that, you would strike through and
Which is what I
show.
did.
But an interlocal agreement has to get voted on by.
So yeah, it has to be voted on,
Yeah, but-
whereas,
All 7 towns need to vote on it.
whereas a nonprofit doesn't get voted on by,
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But we're
Fair
not
enough.
changing the interlocal agreement. We're removing Damascotta and Newcastle and Bremen, because they're no longer part of the interlocal agreement. Nobody gets to vote on that one way or the other.
Right.
So we're removing that and any of their language throughout. And then because we have voted to change the cost share formula, I think that should be in there because somebody wants to go on to the website and look at the interlocal agreement, they need to see the accurate cost
Exactly,
share formula.
yeah.
Otherwise,
That's
you're
what
gonna
we're,
get mass confusion everywhere.
that's what we're gonna clarify with them tomorrow. How do you show this? How do you show what what can you change, what can you not change? And how do you show any updates to something if that? Like, I mean, it's very specific. This is an AOS with an interlocal agreement. And I've read through the statutes, I read through them again this past week, and they're very referential to other statutes. So you start going down this
Yeah.
path, must be organized the way any other school district is organized, must be, kind of follow the governance principles in Title 30, things like that. And that's why we need Drummond and Woodson, but Drummond and Woodson hasn't had calls from AOSs that say, we're doing this and this and this. So they have to go in and dig every time we ask a question, because it isn't the same as the standard questions they're getting read from every school district every day.
Their business. It's,
So,
they couldn't give me.
Nobody's doing what we're doing.
right.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going on at Drummond Woodson is that, Bill Stockmeyer, who gave us all the advice on how to do this restructuring, as of like, not quite a year ago, became managing director of all of Drummond Woodsum. And he had trained a couple people over the years to take his place, and now they are taking his place. But Bill had been doing this for like 40 years and was part of that whole writing all this statute during the consolidation and everything. So Bill was a level of expertise that can't ever really be replaced. So they have to find time to get with him on the dicier things. And it's taken more time now than it did prior to his, taking over the whole firm. And honestly, some of the folks that, we ask a question to, I've learned to say, you sure about that? Could you double check it? Because that's different than what I heard a year or so ago. So we're going through that process now. And there's still, they're still have the largest market share of public school representation in the state by far, and do more with any of these schools than anybody else in Maine. So they are the experts, but but we're pushing at everything, double checking it.
I can give you, I can send you a correspondence and just let you know what we hear from them tomorrow. Just don't respond to it
Yep.
in the email form, but I can just send you whatever new information we get tomorrow, just so you
Yeah,
know where we
That
stand.
would be good.
And I'm hoping they can meet tomorrow. I'll keep you up to speed on that. If they can meet tomorrow, we'll get with them this week at some point. So,
Okay. Um. AOS fiscal year 27 budgets.
Okay, and we pass these out.
And you-
These are at this stage in the game. Just,
He's got.
something to kind of like put up on the board.
Give
to
Sarah
vote
one.
at. There is a lot of, this is at this particular meeting each year. This is essentially the opportunity to give the direction to me on how you want to build a budget. And then I go build it that way and come in, and then we start taking in, looking at the details in it. But there are certain assumptions in this that I don't have guidance yet on whether to make those assumptions. The big one standing out there is whether it's a 4-town AOS or a 2-town.
Mhm.
We've discussed that. But just looking at the 4-town, we have current cost sharing formula that was established last year. And that's what I've built the revenue on, is, what we had agreed to at the, whatever it was, November something meeting, I think it was. And we had changed it from how it had been prior to the first 50 is 50% of the overall cost, and then the second 50 is based on enrollment. And I have not ventured any further than we left it at that time in this draft. The next assumptions that we're making are in SPED. We have a position in here that Todd and Dominic asked me to include in the 4-town AOS. That is half an assistant SPED director, with the other half being of that same person's time being in under the student and staff support as a assistant director of student support,
pretty
Yeah.
much curriculum.
which is, it's just a different way of saying curriculum coordinator. But it would be splitting that position between two things that the AOS and the principals feel we need more representation. So that's a position that essentially, bottom line, keeps the same salary level that we had in there for the assistant SPED director, and has been topic of some discussion over every budget meeting we've had in the last couple of years. But it takes the position and divides it in two different areas and broadens its focus. Okay, and so the SPED cost center as a result goes down a little bit, but And, but it shifts that part of the cost to the student staff support. So that's a topic of discussion, I'm sure, is how you want to handle that position. Both Todd and Dominic can speak to the, value of it and why they asked me to make sure it got in, at least, put it in this budget and let's have some discussion about it. That's probably one of the juicier things to bite into in the things I've given you. The other thing that this budget projects is reducing the business office clerks from 2.8 to 2. We have a 2 full-time, 2 40-hour people and a 0.8 person, and what this does is reduces that to just 2 40 hours and reduces a 0.8 position, which has a full-time health insurance attached to it. So it does cut the business office staff by a third of the clerks.
And you're doing that because it's no longer needed,
We're doing
or?
that because we believe that sticking with the 4-town paradigm, right? And this was something that we had talked about prior to the opening up of it. I've been thinking about it for over a year. We have, as when we were preparing for GSP to leave and we were creating this budget, and just getting after the fund off the ground as the new, county software, we were like, we're just not ready, pull back a person. And we're still not right now. We have funded a person for this year. I believe that the team is getting, we also dealt with a full transition of all 3 of those people left and or whatever, and we replaced all 3, and within a year and a half, they're all, replaced everybody in the whole thing. And got a new accounting system and transition from one structure, a 7-town structure to a 4-town structure. We are making excellent progress on all of those things. This new team is really gaining speed on understanding just what the school business office does, because they were coming in from other places. And they are getting a great handle on Aptifund. And now that GSB, we still haven't find a thing or two that we need to kind of like hand over to GSB that's still left. Oh, we forgot about this or that. And we get it to them. But pretty much we're at a point now where we're 4 towns. And we're using Aptifund pretty well. And people have learning their jobs. So, we're already 4 months into the first year, but by the end of this year, we can do it with 1 less person. And that's what this projects. That would get now, I'm doing that because I know that's what taxpayers want, and what this board wants, because they represent the taxpayers. It's still operating a lean machine where everybody's working really hard, but that's the direction, right? So that's what we're doing. It isn't because we have lots of time on our hands and we can let go of someone and they're just sitting there now twiddling the thumbs. We're gonna be busy and we're gonna try to get some things done so that we'll be in a stronger position than we ever have been to head into whatever comes next while we have the full team. But I understand where we need to go with it, and I'm making that decision in this budget that we can weather that,
Okay.
So the person whose position would be cut, that would be cut as of when?
July 1st, 2026. So at the end of this fiscal year, that would no longer be funded. And that's this isn't about personnel, this is about budget lines.
Yeah.
So how that actually happens and how we choose, how that staff gets reduced is, Todd and I will deal with that over time with the team.
What's the difference there on line 82? That 34 grand.
That's depending out a 32-hour person.
And do you have that up above as well?
Yeah, so you have on 78, the fiscal salaries is reducing the salaries of those. And then the health insurance is also getting reduced by a full family health insurance.
Gotcha.
A little bit more than a full family health insurance, because once we actually settled, some of these people on this team weren't actually here when we did the last year budget. So seeing what they selected, this is based on real people now. And loses a full family and probably the. Just a 2 adult instead of a whole family, which is a little bit less, so that's what that is.
Okay.
So it's 34.6 instead of 31 because of that.
So I didn't figure it out. Line 50, your 3% is off. That's more than a 3% increase, I thought. But it
Line-
is.
I'm sorry, line 50?
Yeah.
50.
Oh, that's supposed to be Todd's. No, that's Todd.
Right,
It's not,
but that's not 3%.
no, because we moved, when we created that curriculum coordinator position, the assistant director of student support up in the, put that in the cost center, student support cost center. Part of Todd's salary had been up there. We moved all of Todd's down in the.
So it,
superintendent.
on this year right now, it's in 2 different places.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and this puts it all in one, and it's exactly 3%.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So that was the.
Todd's original first year contract was 140, went up to 142 with the $2,000 increase, and 142 with a 3% increase is 146,260.
Okay, so that's the overall cost. Yeah,
It's all,
Of the
it's not
it's all-
split out anymore.
it's all in that
It's just
one.
cleaning up the
Yep.
paperwork, right?
Other things that like that, Matt, that you'll see when you get into the sped director, this,
Yeah,
and the
I
sped
noticed
director,
little-
we deal with local entitlement and how we shift that around.
Yeah.
So
And,
that might appear in.
And so it doesn't
two
appear
different-
as clean as perhaps we want it to be, because people always ask, this is the questions that always come up.
And those I kind of, that was just a big number that jumped right off the top of the head. I thought
Yeah.
it was, I just,
And,
and of course, I didn't see the other line in there either, so I was just
Yeah.
kind of.
but there's and that's the next thing, you jump to the next thing. In terms of the assumptions I've made, based on direction Todd gave me, the assumptions he wanted to go with for this draft to give to you. We went with 3% for all personnel. From Todd, everybody.
Yeah.
So this has 3% for each individual working in the central office. It also has one person leaving and another position, an unfilled position remaining but changing.
So it's 3% across the board for all employees.
Exactly.
Peter, I have a question. I have 2 questions.
Yep.
One minor, but this item doesn't have a number, but it's between 21 and 22.
Yep. So local-
Main care billing, what is that?
Okay, so
It's new.
local entitlement contracted services is something that we tossed in here this year. What we have had is in the, we've been using a contractor to do the title fund granted, billing administration, which is. It's a role that is part business office and part what an assistant superintendent or a curriculum coordinator would do. And it's partially what the principals need to be involved in. So that in that role in the ESA grant administration, it's working with all the principals on how they're going to use their title funds to prepare an application and then work with the DOE team to get that application approved, understanding all the sort of ways, what you can do and what you can't do. Going back to the principal and said, you can't actually do this, you gotta change it. Going and getting the application approved so we know what we're gonna do with our title funds. And then working with the business office to bill it so that the projects so that the invoicing is compliant with the projects. Now, when we had an assistant superintendent, that's something that we would do right here with the assistant superintendent. But then we outsourced that. We reduced the superintendent's salary, we took that out, that was 125 a year with 30 health insurance and retirement and everything, comes up to about $155,000. Remove that, replaced it with $20,000 for contracting.
Got it.
And that job is getting done well right now. And but the principals would actually like more meat on the planning of curriculum side of that, because while we're doing what they want and everything, they want more system-wide direction about where that is strategically going, rather than just chiming in for themselves. And that's why Todd's putting in this
Right.
assistant director of student support. But what we also realized is that, and what Dominic has said, is that we could be billing more to main care, but it's very complex and we need somebody to be able to learn how to do that, train up on how to do it and help us do it. And we think the same individual that we've been working with, who's been doing the ESEA, the Title Fund Grant Administration, they've said they want to do that. They were willing to train up on it. So we've put a little bit of money in here, $5,000, to be able to support getting that person going on main care billing. Local entitlement would also cover a piece of that if needed. So we're not sure how much that'll all come to. It might be 10 grand instead of 5, but if we put 5 in here and get some out of the local entitlement money to cover the contracted administration, we know that we can get started and determine, and that's the plan.
So it's kind of a placeholder right now.
Well, we don't know how much it'll come to,
Right.
but we're gonna start on that. The idea has been to start on that this year with that individual. And to start getting some of that going, and you know, what Dominic has basically said is we have to get prepared for it this year so that we can do it next year. And by getting prepared, first it was hiring people, starting the programs, getting everything settled. And then operating. And then as we're operating, fine tuning, making sure everybody's identified properly with main care so that we know how we can prepare to be compliantly invoicing them next year. That's my sort of summary of what he said to me, you know.
Right.
And so we are moving in the direction and funding the ability to get money out of main care. And as you know, Dominic said, in one district that he more recently worked in, he went from 0 being billed to main care to $1 million a year being billed to main care. I don't know if we have that capacity, you know, with that need here, but we're gonna find out how much we can get out of it by at least trying to go after it. And that's what that item is.
I'm actually just having a hard time finding them all. So the rent, what numbers are those under, Peter?
Rent is buried under the superintendent area. So it'll be on page 2, and it's line 66, central office rent. There's also, that's where the
Oh,
big
there
chunk
it
is.
Okay.
There's a little bit, line
It's under
23, sped rent
Yeah, I
also
saw
has
that.
one. And but there is not one for business office, because that's just has traditionally come out of the superintendent rent line. And so the rent I budgeted at the 3% escalation that's in the current lease.
Yep.
No further, I mean, I'm not gonna tie that discussion to budgeting
right.
process. It's
I just was making sure I could find the lines.
direction from the board thus far has been to, we have a lease, we're sticking with it. And so it's all in budget.
Is it just easier to split it up that way, or what's your reasoning for splitting it?
Legally compliant with the DOE, you have to say what you're using the money for. If you're using it for special services, you have to say it's using it for special services.
Okay,
So, you know, the business office and the superintendent are both system administration, so you don't have to break it up there, because that's a cost center.
gotcha.
So, but you are required to, you know, kind of bill your expenses to the appropriate
Right,
cost
yeah.
center, so that they can track how much is people paying on special ed administration versus, you know, system administration.
Yeah.
There's also a line that's not in our budget for adult education rent. So that's not everything leaving this building to, you know, Paul tomorrow. That's everything that we're responsible for.
Right. Yeah, adult education's responsible for their own.
Right.
Yeah.
Peter, I have a question. That was my second question. The question Matt had before, which undoubtedly many members of the public would have if they were, you know, presented with this. Would it, kind of nip things in the bud or prevent people from being baffled or upset if, some of these items which aren't understandable right off the bat were asterisked or, you know, had a little something? I mean, not
Yes.
now for us, because we can just ask you whatever we want.
There's a lot of different ways to speak. I'll tell you the thing, what I wanna do, what I wish I could do, what I'm nervous about doing because of public perception is, instead of lowering these, a lot of this I'm doing because it's always been done this way, because this is the way it was done before I got here. It was done 15 years ago, this way. It's never changed. We present the costs that the taxpayers are paying. We don't show the revenue from the local entitlement grant or the REAP grant that's covering these salaries. So on one case, I always get in there and they say, wait a second, yours says here your superintendent's making 114 last year and 146 this year. I'm like, no, I have
Right.
to explain that. But if I go in and I say the total revenue and I put in everything taxpayers are responsible for, 1.194, and I add in the REAP money and I add in the local entitlement, they go, oh, look how much the central office budget's going up. But it's not, because we had that money last year,
Right.
and the year
Right.
before, and the year before, and the year before. So what I'm doing here is going on the direction that I've been given, is to try to always go to the taxpayers with the exact same format as you have before, because it's taken them years enough to understand what they're looking at, and you throw them off and they get really, they don't think it's, they,
Above par.
yeah, you know, so, but then you do it this way and you gotta answer questions, so at some point. Be nice to have a nice clean slate and say, here's all the revenue, here's all the expenses exactly as they are, and forget about how you used to look at it in the past. But, and we could get there this year, but do we want to is another question for this board. So, and then you have a lot less asterisks,
Right,
and then you just have a few that
right, right.
that are easier to understand because you're not manipulating the subtracting revenue ahead of time and things like that. You're
Right.
just sort of saying this is coming out of two cost centers, not, well, there's a grant and then there's two cost centers and then this and that and the other thing. So I could format that. This isn't the way I think about it or look at it, but it's the way that the public has received it forever.
Well, I think that's because this is voted on by the public and it's kind of a general fund thing, so they wanna know what the general fund
Exactly.
expense to them is gonna be if you start throwing in
Mhm.
local
Yeah.
entitlement and other stuff.
Exactly.
They're just gonna see a bigger number and they don't have to
That's-
vote on local entitlement,
Exactly.
so,
And that's consistent with how we do the title funds in the schools. I don't add title fund revenue into
right.
the budgets that we.
But
bring
it
to the
might
town.
not be a bad idea to put together the local entitlement budget.
Right.
To have it accompanied with this, so when somebody's got a question, you can say. Refer to the local entitlement that's paid out of that budget, which
Yes.
is not
I
up for
see.
discussion
Right.
here tonight. It is not part of what's voted on.
Yep.
That way people can just look and
Right.
compare,
Yes, they can see it,
right,
People like.
they would
clarity.
understand there's another
Right.
pocket of money
Right.
somewhere.
right?
Yep.
Without putting it into this, and
Right.
confusing them.
Understood.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would work good.
And I had a quick question for Todd. This proposed or possible position that would be half assistant sped person and then half curriculum coordinator by another name. How hard is it to find somebody with those two skill sets, which I would imagine are quite different?
I don't know.
You'll find out.
That's why we're calling it, we weren't gonna call it half. I know that's how we've been
Right,
referring it. We
but-
weren't gonna call it half. Spend half. We were gonna call it student support.
But you would be looking for that as part of
Someone who
the
could do both sides of that.
qualifications or experience.
Yep.
Okay,
No matter what, find anybody is difficult for anybody.
I know.
So-
No, but
But so, of the assumptions I've laid out here, I'm just gonna push you a little bit. How you guys feel about 3% at this stage of the game?
I think on a little bit, but I guess. I'm just wondering if maybe we ought to wait instead of investing a bunch of time in doing a four-town one.
Wait and see what happens.
Yeah, maybe we should move our AOS board meeting. Up a little bit later in November.
Up or back.
Well, I guess
which direction? Later.
later,
Later
later,
the 10th,
later in the
15th.
month.
Just to meet, see
Just
what
see where, then we don't have to invest a whole bunch of time in
I
discussion,
agree.
a budget that may,
Probably after the South Bristol board meetings in November to finally vote if they are moving forward, right? Cause that's the month you vote. You voted to start section 2, and then in November you'll vote to move forward with the whole deal, right? So
Yeah.
probably we at least ought to be after their board.
that's what I was
And those are the
thinking.
first 2 weeks, so you.
Makes it-
you-
it
If
makes a lot of
tomorrow's
sense.
yours,
What's that?
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't really wanna invest a whole bunch of time and thought process in something that
may not happen.
just be a waste of time and effort.
So then if you're looking at November.
Do you know when you guys would be voting on that? It's gonna be a regular meeting that you do it on?
They both meet the first week.
Conceivably, we could, meet
Both first week of the month.
otherwise.
Well, they meet on right now, there was a meeting sandwiched between Bristol and South Bristol board meeting. South Bristol meets on the 4th of November and Bristol meets on the 6th
And
of
that-
November.
And hopefully you'll
So
get back
could
with
we push
you.
it for the 10th,
We could push it wherever you want, push it back.
with the 10th of November.
10th is at Jefferson, has a school board meeting on the 10th because Veterans Day is on the 11th, so they had to move their meeting to that Monday instead of the Tuesday.
Okay,
So if you want to stay on Wednesdays, you could do 12th.
so anytime besides the 11th. on that week,
Between the 10th
or the following week on the 17th or something.
the 18th.
Because with the 18th our meeting,
But
right, so we can do it on the 17th.
we could, check the date, these have been, and we've got, these are kept these Wednesdays, you're moving it to Mondays, which is not a
Today,
problem.
Wednesday?
No, today's Monday.
Oh.
This one was-
Now you're-
We moved this.
Who's on first? I had to move this one because Jefferson had to do his
Yeah,
budget
right,
on
yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah,
Well, but that's what I mean, we could keep it on a Monday now.
you could. It's just, it's on a calendar throughout everywhere that it's on when, I just don't wanna, we think we're deceiving them.
I don't really care as long as it's after these guys hear from
Okay.
these, we get a chance. to vote.
And then you usually have the AOS, town budget vote. in
December.
So
December, right?
last year we had a conversation, and it doesn't matter much to me. In fact, I kind of like it the way it is, but I don't think it works the way it is. And last year we talked about why we're trying to do this thing on 3 days before Christmas, when everybody's too busy to get out to the meeting and they don't have time to even kind of like prepare for the thing. Why aren't we doing this? Last year we had like, I don't know, January 18th, we had to do it again, second
Mhm.
time. And when we did it then, there was conversation like, why aren't we doing it this time anyway? Now, the
Well,
reason has been is because you guys are already starting your budgets,
we do our, but we go
But
to,
you-
yeah,
but you don't pass them.
no, but we go to set our budgets with the town in January. First week of January, we go, the Noblesboro School Board goes to the Budget Committee. First week or second week of January. So that means we have to have numbers to be able to go to the Budget Committee with.
Okay. So it's
So that
fine with me,
can't-
leave it where it is, but I just.
I mean, we
Um,
can't move it.
I would like to get it out of the way and move on, you know, but I just, because I like it, I do
Well,
it
I'm not saying we can't crunch out numbers next month.
and just move on it. That isn't, I'm not concerned with that. I know we can do that.
Yeah,
But I just wanna remind you that everybody was saying, why are we bringing this to people at this time of year?
So the other thing with last year was that we had the initial meeting. Then we had a subsequent meeting,
Right,
then we had a third meeting. Right, because it changed, and then we had to come back and vote a third time. Am I remembering correctly? I think there were 3 different meetings and votes that were involved with getting last year's budget.
I remember.
I don't
no,
think-
there's two.
I think you're mixing
We-
your meetings in here with the meetings. we
Right, I
had.
think we had 3 meetings in here to discuss the budget. We had the first presentation and then the second one where we put the budget together that went out the first time. And then we had to have, that failed, so then we had to have the third meeting
Right,
to
come
discuss the
back for
budget.
Second
Right.
budget,
And we did that at the Noblesboro School,
which that one passed.
which was the second.
Maybe you're
budget
thinking of the
proposal.
meeting that was held in the library?
I don't know, there were a lot
But
of.
this
There
one,
was a lot of
meetings.
this one shouldn't be quite so complicated. We don't have to deal with all the discussions of what Great Salt Bay
Yeah,
moved out, cause
So-
that really threw a whole monkey wrench into everything.
So one thing that would be
More to
wise to,
discuss.
if we're not gonna meet again until November, whatever the date is, I don't think it's been set yet.
Probably
should,
Saturday.
probably should decide that.
But
If everybody
we need
wants-
to also decide on when we're gonna bring this budget to the public meeting. And I'm looking at the week of it's gonna have to be a little earlier than usual. Because Christmas falls on like a Thursday.
Yeah.
And so it'd be like December 18th. We've usually done these on Thursdays, I believe.
The second week of December.
Well, you have to post it and everything, and
How many weeks does it have to be posted? Is it-
only 7 days, but you need a little time. The
Yeah.
step, you don't wanna be down to the wire. And you could have, like, anything could happen, like when you sit down in November, you might say. We're actually not ready, we gotta come back in next week, you know? So,
So the 12th, is there any meetings going on the 12th?
No, that's okay.
November.
How's everybody with November 12th?
What day does that fall on?
Wednesday.
A Wednesday.
Not that it matters.
I'm trying to keep it,
Sounds good.
Well,
it's the day after Veterans Day.
Yes.
Oh,
I
June's-
cannot. I
June's not gonna
cannot
be here
speak for-
anyway.
No, I cannot speak for Emil, but if he cannot come on the 12th,
Something.
I will rustle up somebody.
Well, and also, and I will say pending, if it's 2 towns on a decision, I don't think it muchly matters,
Right, but
Right.
just in case.
right? Just in case it
Yeah.
does, you know, and I agree, but if
Yeah.
we are looking at the 2-town scenario.
and then just stay here until you get it done, but I'm more concerned about. You bring it back to your boards and they say something and they want you to fix something, I don't know, not that that's. really
I
gonna
don't
happen.
even think they have.
I just
to
wanna
do-
make sure I build in enough
Yeah.
time, but you could do that in a phone call the next day. So then you have I would say you bring it.
So the 12th.
I would go earlier
Let's
in
get the
December,
First week of December.
get it done on as early as,
What days do we usually, do we do it like on a
pretty
Thursday?
sure it's been Thursdays.
Or has it been all over the board? I
Let's
can't-
try to do it December 4th. That's like,
December 11th is what I would
Yeah,
recommend.
4th, 11th.
That way you're not compressing it up against, everybody's trying to get things wrapped up at school and onto Christmas and everything. You're doing it earlier and away from that bottleneck. then
Actually, if
after.
it passed, you can throw those numbers in for our 16th meeting. Right, for
Then you get,
our
Now
final
we
go
get
over for
everybody.
budget.
everybody's rolling up faster. I would love that.
You're gonna mad at us, 'cause we ain't gonna have a budget.
That's a bad way to talk.
No.
You thinking that way too?
Well, that sounds good, and
What day did you say, Peter?
The 11th, Thursday, the 11th. Now I'll double check with towns that that isn't a problem. So we'll have to find a location for it.
Well, I would just reach out to Noblesboro as long as, well, shouldn't say that yet, but as long as nobody cares about going to Noblesboro, maybe we just find out if there's no ball games in the
Yeah,
gym
yeah.
that night.
Oh, we could tell them, they're probably doing the scheduling now, we could tell them to make. sure
Yeah,
there isn't something.
schedule around it.
yeah, the basketball schedule is not released quite yet.
Right, so maybe we, if that's the date everybody's good with trying to set for vote, we can schedule the Noblesboro gym
Okay,
in use.
and let's just go with the
So we,
potential, the possibility that it's still a four-town meeting. I should check with, we should just make sure all four towns can do it before I lock it in. Even though it's pretty good chance it's gonna be a two-town meeting. Right? And just get it locked in, and everybody can, if we do go with December 11th. We can still get a four-town budget together. On the schedule we just laid out, right?
Yeah, I don't see why we
Yeah,
couldn't
I
even
don't
last
see why.
our next meeting, even if it is a four-town, hammer it out.
Yeah,
Right that
I'm
night.
down with that.
yeah, it's nothing, there's nothing. There's nothing,
There's not any huge moves.
Everything that needs to be discussed, I already have presented to you.
yeah,
Right,
And those dials only move so far.
right.
yeah,
We are not meeting on November 5th.
No,
Okay, that's done.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter, can you stay for the one other thing?
Yep.
Yes, we're ready to do
So-
a couple of executive sessions.
So now, I need a motion to go into executive session. Is that-
The first one, the first one.
All right,
See you, Sarah.
Thanks.
bye,
Who
Sarah.
was that, Wayne?
Wayne.
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No, hearing none, we are, we have to say all in favor?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Wayne from,
What time is it?
it's 42. We got that thing on.
6:42.
PM.
Owl off?
Not yet.
I'm closing the window, not because I think anybody's out here listening, but because I don't want.
It is 6:55 and we are officially out of executive session. And can I have a motion to go back into executive session for the evaluation of officials, appointees, employees?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. 4-0. It is still 6:50.
You're efficient.
Right.
That executive.
Yeah, the whole last thing.
The whole last
The
thing?
last thing.
Oh, my gosh.
Motion and everything, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna use the same
give me
time.
that copy back so I can.
Here, I'll
read
give
it
you
again.
a copy.
Sorry about that.
You just wanted to hear us.
Hear it again?
Contract twice, that's all.
Are we recording now? Or we gotta wait for the girl to say?
I believe
something?
we are, yeah.
Alright, alright. Okay, it is 7:13 and we are back out of executive session. Does somebody have a motion?
I move to expend a two-year superintendent employment contract to Todd Sanders, period of July 1, 2026, ending June 30, 2028.
Second,
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? 4-0, affirmative. Thank you very much. So we are adjourning the meeting at 7:15.